Good afternoon. Here we have a quiet little motel, tucked away off the main highway, and as you see, perfectly harmless looking, when in fact, it has now become known as the scene of the crime.
That is how Alfred Hitchcock introduced the trailer for his 1960 movie, Psycho. The crime to which Hitchcock refers has become one of the most iconic scenes in the history of cinema. A 45-second sequence that took a week to shoot and incorporates 77 camera angles. I speak, of course, of the shower scene. I could dedicate a video essay to this scene alone, and many others have. This scene is cinematic perfection. Any movie that contains such a perfect scene would surely be forgiven for any other sequences that don't hold up. But this has not stopped critics from pointing out a major problem in Psycho. The ending. When I say the ending of Psycho, what comes to mind for you? For some, it would be the iconic reveal of Mrs. Bates in the fruit cellar. For others, it might be Norman's famous internal monologue in which he wouldn't harm a fly. What many people forget is the lengthy scene in which a psychiatrist explains Norman's psychological condition. Here, Hitchcock and screenwriter Joseph Stefano use exposition to tell us what happened instead of showing us. Yes, it's a textbook example of telling instead of showing. But Hitchcock has already shown us what happened, to great cinematic effect. We have already gotten the image of Mrs. Bates's corpse, and Norman dressed as Mrs. Bates. That shows us everything we need to know. Might the movie then have been improved by jumping more quickly from the climactic scene in the fruit cellar to Norman's internal monologue? Why have Hitchcock and Stefano, in what might otherwise be the greatest movie ever made, included such bad filmmaking in the final moments of Psycho? There must be a reason. Some have suggested that audiences in 1960 simply needed things spelled out for them a bit more. People weren't equipped with the same understanding of psychoanalysis as today's modern audiences, and they needed a direct explanation. Others suggest that the audience just needed some time to catch their breath after the shock of the fruit cellar scene. But just a year prior, in 1959, Hitchcock ended North by Northwest by cutting directly from a shot of Ava Marie Saint hanging off Mount Rushmore to a shot of Cary Grant pulling her up into a bunk bed on a train, before immediately ending the movie. A year before that, in 1958, Vertigo ended with Kim Novak falling off a roof and James Stewart looking down on her. Where was the time for audiences to catch their breath in these movies? The suggestion that Hitchcock included the psychiatrist scene for the purpose of accommodating his audience mischaracterizes a director who nowhere else shows concern for audience well-being. I submit that there is something more going on in this scene. Let's pay close attention to how Hitchcock constructs the character of the psychiatrist. He's smug.
Well, now, look, if you're trying to lay some psychiatric groundwork for some sort of plea, this fellow would like to cop this.
A psychiatrist doesn't lay the groundwork. He merely tries to explain it.
And he's unsympathetic toward Lila.
When he met your sister, he was touched by her, aroused by her. He wanted her. That set off the jealous mother, and mother killed the girl.
The character of the psychiatrist has come into the movie very late. He's an intruder, just like the private investigator Arbogast was when he first entered.
Let's all talk about Marion, shall we?
Lila was put off by Arbogast at first, too.
Did you come up here on just a hunch and nothing more?
Not even a hunch, just hope.
Well, with a little checking, I could get to believe you.
I don't care if you believe me or not.
But just when Lila and Sam had warmed up to Arbogast, well, you know what happened to him. By the time the psychiatrist enters the movie, we, like the characters in the film, are so exhausted of authority figures that we don't even pass judgment on him. So it's easy to not even register that he's quite unlikable. Instead of giving the grieving Lila and Sam answers about what happened to Marion, he plays games with them.
Did he kill my sister?
Yes. And no.
The psychiatrist holds his knowledge and expertise over everyone else in the room, smugly enjoying his superiority and authority.
You see, when the mind houses two personalities, there's always a conflict, a battle. In Norman's case, the battle is over, and the dominant personality has won.
This is not the first time in Psycho that Hitchcock paints an authority figure in a negative light. For much of the beginning of the movie, the highway patrol officer is the central antagonist. He looms over Marion with a similar sense of authority. His dark sunglasses dehumanize him, giving him an ominous presence. And he does not give Marion a reason for his pursuit of her.
Have I broken any laws?
No, ma'am.
Then I'm free to go. I've told you there's nothing wrong, except that I'm in a hurry and you're taking up my time.
Now, just a moment. Turn your motor off, please. May I see your license?
Why?
Please.
Even though Marion has stolen $40,000, it is important to note that the highway patrolman is not aware of this and has no reason to suspect her of anything at this point in the film. But we get the sense that he is always watching. Likewise, the psychiatrist has now watched and studied Norman, who, due to his belief that he is his mother, does not believe he has done anything wrong. The question of Norman or Mrs. Bates's guilt is where the psychiatrist scene gets interesting. The psychiatrist confirms that Norman, as Mrs. Bates, committed the murders.
That set off the jealous mother, and mother killed the girl.
But now, listen to what Norman, as his mother, says in his final monologue.
It's sad when a mother has to speak the words that condemn her own son, but I couldn't allow them to believe that I would commit murder. They'll put him away now, as I should have, years ago. He was always bad, and in the end he intended to tell them I killed those girls and that man, as if I could do anything except just sit and stare, like one of his stuffed birds.
Norman's Mrs. Bates' identity condemns her son with having committed the crimes. She does not assume guilt herself. So, if we set this against what the psychiatrist said, we learn that the psychiatrist was wrong. Or was Norman, as his mother, dishonest with the psychiatrist? Or is he now being dishonest with us, the cinematic audience? The psychiatrist scene exemplifies the faulty conclusions that can be reached from psychoanalysis. By including this scene, Hitchcock and Stefano underscore the fact that we, as movie viewers, are apt to reach faulty conclusions about movie characters. In many ways, Psycho is a movie about viewership and watching.
Have you ever seen the inside of one of those places? The laughing and the tears, and the cruel eyes studying you.
The irony here is that at the end of the movie, Norman will be the one who has cruel eyes studying him, the eyes of the psychiatrist. But acts of viewing or watching in Psycho aren't always so clinical. There's of course Norman's voyeuristic watching of Marion, Marion's viewing of Mrs. Bates, and the aforementioned watchful eye of the highway patrolman. Many of Psycho's iconic moments involve seeing, looking, or viewing, right up to the cruel eyes of the psychiatrist that study Norman. In the final monologue, Norman says,
They're probably watching me.
But who exactly is watching Norman? The police officers? The psychiatrist? In Psycho's final shocking moment, Norman reveals, with a look, that when he talks about the cruel eyes that study him, he isn't talking about the psychiatrist or anyone else in the movie. He's talking about us.